Action.
Good evening. Today is Tuesday, June 18th, and this is the Hendrick Hudson Board of Education meeting. The board has just returned from executive session, and before we get started, maybe stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. All right. Before we get even into our agenda this evening, we have our wonderful retirement reception, and I will turn it over to Mr. Trombley and Dr. Weller.
Thank you, President Bernard. I love to see well-attended board meetings. I'm sure you're all here for the public comment or my report. But before we get to that, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Weller to celebrate a very special milestone for many people in the room. We're very happy to see families join us and celebrate what is one of the most important parts of our district, of our staff who are moving on to the next journey in their lives. I'll turn it over to Dr. Weller.
Good evening, everyone. Looks like we have a party going on here, huh? All right, so there are a lot of anxious people in this audience and some little kids, so it's always good to be quick, right? All right, so we want to start off by just congratulating everybody. We do have some people retiring that could not join us this evening. So I'm going to read everyone's name, even the people that are here. Kathleen Innes, Enrique Catalan, Robert Clark, Maureen Conair, Deb DeVivo, Deb DeCiccio, Gloria Flick, Elizabeth Gillio, Dan Halleck, Helen Kokenchek, Barbara LaFemina, Nancy Morin, Doris Pappas, Carol Ann Perescovides, David Perez, Jane Price, Jean Ryan, Paulette Sharkey, Phyllis Sowen, Carmen Yee, Teresa Zarelli. Congratulations. Brave enough to be here this evening with your loved ones. So retirement is not an end, but a beginning, right? And if we are open to it, there are many things, exciting things that are still waiting for us out there. So I want to start by bringing people up in clusters to congratulate them, and of course to give you the prize. And in case you don't know that this is a hint, it's a beach towel. We want you to enjoy yourself. Send us pictures. Tell us how fabulous it is on the other side. Okay, without further ado, I'd like to bring up three ladies without whom I'm quite positive this high school would not function. Would you please join me in congratulating Deb DeVivo, Gloria Flick, and Barbara LaFemina. Once again, congratulations, ladies. Your flights are leaving in the morning, and where you're headed is sunny and warm. Although it's sunny and warm here, so maybe not. Okay, let's move along to yet another woman without whose care and attention and comfort a lot of our young children would be lost. Helen Kokenchek, the nurse at Buchanan Verplank Elementary. Okay, so let's shift gears and talk a little bit about three teachers. So we have with us here tonight three very special people who have spent a very long time trying to help our children find their path. Some of them dedicated to one subject, some of them dedicated to many. I would like you to help me welcome up to the front, third grade teacher extraordinaire, Carol Ann Perescovides. Sixth grade ELA teacher. Although we really learned Jean was an elementary teacher too, so we shared her with the middle school for a little while. And last but definitely not least, a young lady who has mentored half this staff, Colette Sharkey, special education.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna shift gears now and head over to district office. So this one's a little personal. So Jane Price has been my assistant extraordinaire for 10 years. And I will tell you that over the many times we've had together, we have helped ourselves through fixing budgets, filing grants, hiring professional development consultants, making sure materials got to the right building. So many things together. It has been a pleasure to work alongside her. And of course, over 10 years, you get to know the person. And what I've come to know is that two girls from Queens did pretty okay, don't you think? I am pretty sure that Jane and I somehow had our beach towels together on 108th Street in Rockaway as teenagers. It is killing me that she is leaving, but I love her dearly, and I'm so thrilled that she's moving on, expanding her grandchildren family. She has her lovely daughters here tonight. Come on down, Jane. We can still drive down to Rockaway. Okay. Last but not least, someone who has gotten us to and from school every day. Like the mailman, rain or shine, Liz makes sure those buses are on time. And I don't want to say how many years she's been here. I'll leave that to Liz, or not at all. But I'm pretty sure she's looking forward to not having to talk to Mike at 4 o'clock in the morning to decide if it's a snow day. Liz Gillio, come on down. You're very welcome. Thank you. So last, everybody's been recognized here or not here. I think, if I could speak for everybody, I know Mike probably wants to say something in closing. You don't realize how much of an impact people have until often they're gone. And some of these people have been here a very long time. I can remember Colette haunting me for every PD book we went through together with Dan and Carl. But it has been a joy, and I've not been here nearly as long as most of the people we just introduced. But I can tell you that it's been a pleasure working with them, getting to know them as people, not just as educators or support folks. And I will miss them dearly. So one more time, all the best to all of you, and those of you at home.
Before I get into a few closing words, and then pausing for a break, because we do have a business meeting after this, and you're welcome to stick around for that. It's going to be thrilling because I'm giving a report as well. But before I get into some final thoughts on this evening's festivities, I just want to take a moment to thank Dr. Ruller and Fran Dodaro for putting together this ceremony. It's truly is a wonderful celebration to be a part of, and they've been working diligently over the past months to make sure that everything is in place so that we can honor you in a wonderful way. I also want to say thank you to Claire Carey and our custodial staff as well, who at the last minute pivoted and brought us into here so it could be a little bit more comfortable, and also Claire for providing the food. So we can give Margaret, Fran, this truly is one of those special events that makes working in the school district feel not like work, but more like a family. And I want to thank the individuals who have not only contributed significantly to our schools, but who've also profoundly impacted the lives of countless students. Our retirees have demonstrated unwavering commitment and passion, always striving to create an environment where children can thrive. And I know I've only been a part of your family for a little bit, but thank you for allowing me to do that. And I've looked into the impact that you have had, just not only based on years of service, but also the roles that you've played in the school district. And your efforts to give of yourself not only enrich the academic experience of our students, but also, I'm sure, have fostered a lifelong love of learning no matter what role you played, because you've allowed them to be part of our educational community. We are we are deeply grateful as a district for your enduring contributions, which have helped shape the bright futures of our students. And as you embark on the next chapter of your life, we wish you health, happiness, and fulfillment. And please know that the legacy of your dedication will continue to inspire generations of sailors to come. Thank you for your service and leaving an indelible mark upon our community. And please remember that you are all once and always will be a sailor. And I just want you to think about, we spend more time at work often than we do with our families. So families, thank you for sharing your family member with us. We are happy, but sad at the same time to let them return to you in more of a permanent role. So thank you, and congratulations to everybody. And so that concludes our recognition. If we want to pause, or we can continue on with the meeting, you're all welcome to join us. Thank you.
Okay, we've just finished up our retirement reception, and we're moving on to the public hearing on the code of conduct and district-wide safety plan. Is there anyone here to speak on the code of conduct and district-wide safety plan?
President Bernard, if you have, while we're waiting to see if anybody wants to come to the podium, we did receive a comment during the public comment period of this process. Would you like me to read the comment into the record? So this general comment was submitted during the public comment period. High school students who receive ISS and OSS are often the same students who struggle academically. When they're removed from class for multiple days, they miss instruction and often fall far behind in their studies despite tutoring efforts. It would be helpful to have another way to instill consequences such as community service, mentoring with a trusted community member, or attending counseling sessions or workshops related to the infraction outside of class time. In some cases, an alternative school setting may be warranted. Otherwise, these students are more likely to fail classes. Of course, if the student's behavior is so egregious that another student is in danger physically or emotionally, it may not be possible for them to remain in school. In my experience as a teacher, suspensions have not resulted in corrective behavior. I have seen students repeat the offenses multiple times after suspensions and fall farther behind in school. And that was reading into the record, a comment received by an email during the public comment period on the code of conduct.
Are we going to discuss that or is it just? We do with that.
Well, we have a few minutes. Anyone?
We're still reading. We're good.
We're good? Did you want to discuss?
So I guess, yeah, so like, so would we have to revise our policy to include that, or is that something that could be done at a building level? What would our options be? I don't necessarily disagree with
Sure.
that comment.
So we do give building administrators leeway or discretion in implementing sanctions. Items such as mandating community service would be out of our scope at this point in time. We are exploring from an administrative perspective alternatives to suspensions to make sure that we do support students. That's the balance, particularly when it comes to my level, and I have to decide if it's going to be longer than 5 days of an out-of-school suspension, because we do know that we are keeping students away from the classroom, but we do have to balance that with the right to other students to that educative process. So we do also provide tutoring to all students who are removed from the classroom for suspensions. So this is something that in the realm of education we're always considering. We're always looking at best practices in that balance between a student who has violated a code of conduct and then implementing a proper sanction. We are not allowed to implement work-based restorative practices where if you've done graffiti on a desk, you have to clean all desks, and you'll approach it from that way. So there are.
Will we ever be able to do restorative practices?
So restorative practices aren't necessarily that you've written on a desk, you have to clean the desk. There are different ways you can restore the community of learners or the education community if there is a infraction against that community. That's the general philosophy. We are exploring those practices with our administrative team. So I believe as part of we were exploring the Sweetheart and Heroes.
We were, but remember, it's just too much to add to next year. So one of the things that we've talked about is there is through New York State Department of Ed restorative practice. It is a free PD that our principals can attend. I think it's 3 days over the summer. I'm just not sure. I think we're going to be talking about that at our next meeting.
Right.
So,
Retreat.
yeah, or the retreat. So there's options there. We are finding that we do have some students that are out. We are having them come to PPS for tutoring. That has made some impact on students because they're there with a teacher getting work done. But it's not the answer. They need to be with their peers and figure out how to engage in a positive manner or learn from mistakes, just like we all did, right? A mistake is a learning opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I always, so how do you, and I guess you really, maybe to the community is, so one thing is discipline at school. How do you have these conversations with parents? Like, how do you, I mean, we could say, okay, you used your, let's just say it was your cell phone, right? And you violated a code of conduct or the use of the cell phone. An example. You did it in school, this is your discipline for school. But I mean, that's only at school, so I guess is like, how do you get parents involved and engaged in understanding what's expected, making sure parents understand and like I mean, I don't know if discipline works if it's only 5 hours a day. I mean that as a parent, I guess that's what I'm worried about, or, thinking.
I was always more afraid to go home, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I think it's got to be a joint, it's got to be something that we do together. So I think it'd be a great item for site-based to start talking about ways to be able to address that.
So in all of our actions as a school district, we know that we can best serve our students if there's a strong school-home partnership. And homes come in many different shapes, sizes, and makeups. So I say that in general broad terms, and it starts with communication. Here's what we saw in school. Are you seeing the same? Is there anything you need support with? Is there anything that you want to share with us that might help us better serve your son or daughter academically, socially, behavior-wise? So it really comes down to that clear communication when we do have those interactions.
I never could understand out of school unless they were harm to other people in the building, only because it's a day off. It seems like a reward. And for parents who are working, they definitely can't be there. So it's in some cases, it's a day off unsupervised. So they can get into more trouble. It's just mine.
Just pointing out that this is still the public hearing portion, and there's no one here to speak. I just want to make sure I remind us all that that's what we're doing. Okay, can I have a motion to approve the agenda this evening?
Second.
All in favor? Yep. No, not later. Okay, that takes us to our audience comments section on non-agenda items.
There's
nobody signed up to speak. All right, the consent agenda. I believe, Jen, you had just mentioned, besides Jen, does anyone have anything to pull from the consent agenda? No?
Do we have to do anything on the public hearing on district safety?
Nope, just the public hearing. I said in both.
Okay.
Yes, one here. Okay, Jen?
I'd like to pull fiscal 7.4, the resolution of the pilot agreement for Indian.
Okay. All right. So before we vote on and talk about fiscal 7.4, we're going to vote on the rest of the consent agenda.
Sure, I would just, before the board does that, I would just like to point out, I recognize one of our probationary appointment candidates this evening who's joining us in the audience. Daniel Burke is poised to be appointed as an E&L classroom teacher, joining us for a 3-year probationary period starting this evening. Daniel, thank you for being here this evening and showing up to the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda less fiscal 7.4?
Motion to approve consent agenda less fiscal 7.4.
Yep.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, and we're pulling this for
Just
Jen-
abstaining from that section.
Okay. Jen is abstaining from voting on fiscal 7.4, in particular the Holtec pilot agreement.
Correct.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve fiscal 7.4?
Motion to approve fiscal 7.4.
Second.
All in favor? So, moving on. Carmen, you got all that? I don't want to go too fast. All right, that takes us to our donations. Okay, The first donation is a donation totaling $5,000 for the high school's Unified Sports Tennis Program. The USTA Eastern has made a donation of $5,000 to our Unified Tennis Program. That's amazing. Okay, and the next donation, oh, this one's highly sought after. I've heard about this one. The district received a donation in the amount of $6,937 from the HHE PTA, that's our elementary PTA, for a ball pit for the Buchanan Verplank Elementary School. And a third donation is totaling $900 for the Barbara Katzenstein Scholarship Fund. The Office of Special Education has received donations in the amount of $900 to be utilized to pay for partial summer camp funding for students with significant handicapping conditions. Those are 3 big donations. Can I have a motion to approve the donations this evening?
Motion.
Second? All in favor? All right, that takes us up to our audience comment on agenda items.
Thank you to all of our donors.
Yes.
We have one speaker, Marcia Bailey.
Hi, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Marcia Bailey. I'm in my 50th year of employment within the Hendrick-Hudson School District, where I taught math for 44 years prior to my retirement several years ago. I continue to coach all 3 seasons, cross-country, indoor, and spring track for both the boys and the girls teams. And we just finished, I'll brag a little bit, with a medalist at the New York State Championships 2 weekends ago. I have also subbed extensively in the high school math department. Many leave replacements, some day-to-day jobs, but mostly extensive leave replacements. I believe there have been 6 babies born since I retired. There have been several major operations, military deployment, and I have welcomed the opportunity to come back and have enjoyed every minute of subbing here in the building. I was very concerned to see tonight the future considerations that are listed on your agenda that you'll be discussing in a few minutes. One of the things that I kind of very patiently have sat back, and I do watch all the board meetings, and realized that you've been doing a fair amount, and rightfully so, discussion on ELA and the methods in which you teach reading and writing K-12. I think that's very important. But it's been over 25 years since we've done that K-12 for math. And I was a little disappointed to not see something along those lines listed for the elementary, the middle school, and the high school considerations for next year and the year thereafter. And then I think what really sparked my concern that I will continue to speak with you about past my 1 minute remaining over the next couple of months is the fact that you are going to consider doing Algebra 1 for all students in the middle school. I think that is a grave mistake. I hope you will discuss this with all of the math teachers, along with the administrators on all of the levels. Unfortunately, in the last 25, 30 years at Hendrick-Hudson, we have seen more students accelerate than have remained in the accelerated program. And it's a shame to see kids get turned off to math, something that I know I loved and I try very hard to make every one of my students love. I hope you will spend considerable time exploring this option and thinking about the K-12 math program overall. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, good.
So Ms. Bailey, thank you for the comment and the considerations that we should explore. Just a word, I haven't been able to introduce the presentation yet, but when I do introduce the presentation, you'll know that this list is not an exhaustive list. It's not meant to showcase everything that we will be doing next year. I don't think we can do that in a 10-minute presentation, which is our procedure for our presentations. We will be conducting a K-12 math curriculum review next year. That did not make it into the presentation, but thank you for your comment.
Okay. Anybody else signed up to speak? Right. That takes us to the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, President Bernard. Just wanted to start off the report with a reminder about our heat advisory. We are currently monitoring the impact of the heat advisory issued for this week. Of course, safety remains front of mind. As you may know, we have limited spaces in our schools that are air conditioned. To help mitigate the impact that the excessive heat may have, we have taken, and this is not exhaustive, it's not all of the steps, but it is meant to be illustrative. We will be taking the following steps, such as if buildings have access to air conditioning, we've asked our building leaders to create a schedule that will help rotate staff through those spaces if you want to consider improvised cooling centers. We've asked our local EMS to be on site at any major event, such as moving up or outdoor ceremonies. We've asked all of our principals to designate individuals who will serve to monitor any activities specifically for the impact of heat-related illnesses, where this person who would be monitoring that activity will have access to emergency services and extra water in a more expedited fashion than normal. And we are considering the need to modify any end-of-the-year events as we continue to monitor the situation. Building principals will be reaching out should any of those changes need to be put into effect, such as moving up or graduation ceremony changes. We encourage all of our staff and students to take frequent water breaks. All buildings have water fillers, and Ms. Carey has stated that she will be deploying extra drinking water options when and wherever possible. We're urging people to close blinds and keep the lights off in classrooms when possible. Our fantastic custodial staff is trying to deploy as many fans as they can, and at night attempting to bring in cooler air. And since we're so close to the end of the year, the bottom line is we, at this time, do not plan to further adjust our school calendar as of the drafting of this report. Additionally, the New York State Education Department does not provide for the adjustment of the schedule of Regents exam for those students who are scheduled to take those exams. If there are any questions, please feel free to reach out first to your building principal if you have any building-specific questions, and I appreciate the efforts of our faculty, staff, maintenance, and operations personnel who are working through the heat themselves to try to support our students in less than desirable conditions. I do want to move now tonight to a portion of our evening that is continuing a recognition theme. We did just celebrate some of our fantastic retirees and wish them well. We do have two board trustees who this will be their last board meeting. So if you'll indulge me, I want to take a moment to, I hope it's not based on their position of where they're seated next week, that they have decided to make this their last board meeting. But first, I want to recognize Trustee Jennifer Bacher. We recognize her for her dedicated service, serving from July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2024. Throughout her tenure, Ms. Bacher has been a pillar of support and a guiding force in our community, always prioritizing the well-being and success of our students. In her first year, Ms. Bacher served on the Audit Committee. We'll take a trip down memory lane. The Facilities Committee, and served as the PTA liaison to Buchanan River Plank Elementary School. And additionally, she represented our school district. She did this all years on the board at the Westchester Putnam School Boards Association, a role that she has held with distinction throughout her entire term. And her commitment to these varied responsibilities showcased her versatility and dedication to the district. During her second year in office, Ms. Bacher continued to demonstrate her insightful approach to problem solving as a member of the Finance Committee and the Facilities Committee. And she also served as the board delegates, and I'm sure it is as exciting as it sounds, to the New York State School Boards Association as our district's representative, ensuring that our district's voice was heard at the state level. And in her final year, Ms. Bacher was once again chosen to represent, be our NYSBA delegate for representing the district. And her continued service on the Facilities Committee and Audit Committee reflected her steadfast commitment to maintaining and improving our district's infrastructure and fiscal integrity. Ms. Bacher's tenure has been marked by her ability to address complex issues with insight and foresight. Her approach to problem solving has been instrumental and inspiring to me, and also in guiding the board's decision. She always focuses on what's best for children of our district, and she's been a tireless advocate for ensuring that the Board of Education remain focused on its assigned roles, fostering a culture of responsibility and strategic planning. And we do have a tiny gesture of token of our appreciation, but we're going to ask you not to open it at this time. It's not ticking. It's not ticking. So, and it's not the $1 million check behind it. Which, so, if we could please give Ms. Bacher a round of applause. Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, well, I didn't actually plan to say anything. But the last 3 years have been really rewarding. It was a hard decision not to run again. But honestly, I'm very excited to get to spend some more time with my girls. I have 3 girls, and my oldest will be starting her college preparation, I guess. So I'm looking forward to being part of that. But, you know, I always say Alexis and I really did this together. This has been a journey for us. Even though we both grew up here, I did not know her. And we've really grown friendship that I have learned to cherish. And the rest of you are at this board. Everybody has been great. I've learned a lot, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
So now I'd like to extend heartfelt gratitude from the community to our current Board of Education President, Ms. Alexis Bernard, who was, outside of the interview process, the first voice that I heard as a representative of the Hendrick Hudson community in speaking about coming to be a member of that. So it's bittersweet because I appreciate this board bringing me on board the ship, so to speak, and the 2 individuals to my left and my right were instrumental in that. So Alexis has served as currently has served as president of the Board of Education, and she served on the board for the same term, July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2024. And during her time on the board, Ms. Bernard has been a steadfast advocate for the children of our district, demonstrating unwavering dedication and selfless service. And that's the theme for any board service. The pay is horrible, hours are horrible, and sometimes the superintendent tells really bad jokes, so you have to put up with a number of different things to serve a community. So it truly is an act of selfless care and concern for the community. In her first year, Ms. Bernard contributed significantly as a member of the Finance Committee, the Safety Committee, and served as the PTA liaison to Frank G. Lindsay. Her leadership capabilities were quickly recognized, leading to her election as Board of Education President for the 2022-2023 board year. And during this period, she continued her involvement on the Finance Committee and took on the role of elementary PTA liaison, consistently ensuring that the financial decisions and educational initiatives were aligned with the best interests of our students. Ms. Bernard's final year in office saw her re-elected as President of the Board of Education, a testament to her highly effective approach to running meetings and her commitment to transparency and inclusivity. She maintained her active participation in the Finance Committee and served as the PTA liaison to Blue Mountain Middle School, further solidifying her role as a bridge between the board and school communities. Ms. Bernard's tenure has been marked by her unwavering focus on putting the needs of all children first. She has been instrumental in ensuring the Board of Education remain diligent in addressing its responsibilities, fostering a culture of accountability and continuous improvement. We are deeply appreciative of Ms. Bernard's contributions and her tireless efforts to enhance the educational experience for every child, and her leadership will have a lasting legacy, and we wish her all the best in her futures and endeavors. And Ms. Bernard, thank you for your exceptional service and for making a difference in the lives of the students in our community. And there's your gift. You can say a few words, and when you're done, we invite you and Ms. Bacher to open.
You know, I was like thinking all day, like, I wonder if Mr. Trump is going to put me on the spot and ask me to say a few words. I didn't really have anything prepared. I won't repeat what Jen said. It's been incredibly rewarding, very difficult, the craziest thing that I could probably ever have experienced, but really, really, really incredible. And I think the coolest part is all of the relationships that I've built with community members, different groups, the board members, Mr. Trombley, his staff. It's really been quite a journey, and it feels like, wow, I can't believe, but at the same time, I don't really remember life before serving on the board. Anyway, that's really it. Thank you, and thank you all for being on the same team.
So we have only do we have some bouquets for you, but we also have
Oh.
a token. We want you to remember your time.
Says Jen.
Oh. Apparently your superintendent needs to read. So we do have a token of appreciation, which we hope when you gaze upon it, you will remember all of your fun times, but also the children that you have impacted in your years of service. There is some assembly required. Sorry.
You did the box again, you took your chance.
I actually, the box is a normal size, so you know that Carmen was in charge of it.
Nice little stuff.
Am I like almost a teacher?
Oh.
An apple. I'm like almost a teacher. Not really, but. Oh,
So can we describe it for the viewing audience at home?
Yes, it says Hendrick Hudson School District, and it has our logo.
yeah.
And it has our board service, July 21st, July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2024, honoring your service, Hendrick Hudson Central School District Board of Education. It's beautiful.
I will pause and offer, I mean, it's your meeting, but I will take advantage of this opportunity to open it up to any board trustees who have any comments that they would like to share.
Now you're on the spot.
So I was going to prepare something and then I did not.
Had a lot
We've
to
been
do.
a little busy, which is par for the course. And so Mike covered a lot of it, dedication, service. I think you've both been helped pave the path and set a tone for the board. Working with you guys has been wonderful. I can't really imagine doing this without you, to be quite honest. Although we have our two new board trustees that will be joining us. As you said, I don't remember the time before what it was like not to serve. I don't really remember a time in my life that I didn't know you guys. Like, it just is weird. But I thank you so much. I think we all are very appreciative of the time that you serve. The work that goes into this, unless you are sitting here, you don't really understand the time that goes into this. And there's good times and there's good things, there's bad things. Like today was a great celebration, but we never know what's gonna come our way. And you guys handle it with grace. And I just really appreciate you both. And I was going somewhere else with this. Okay. You guys get a gift of time back. Enjoy it. Use it wisely. Enjoy your families. But do not forget about us.
We'll be there.
We'll be there.
Oh, God.
3 minutes.
Yeah, we each take our 3 minutes. Thank you.
High five.
Thank you
on the
all.
way out.
This is really sweet. And we got all these pretty flowers.
Thank you.
So just to put some final words on this, I often say, other than the relationship between a student and a trusted adult within the school district, in other words, an adult that makes that student feel connected, feel valued, feel that connection to the school district, the most important relationship a school district can have is the relationship at the board table, because you set the tone and the tenor for the entire district. And being new, I have witnessed firsthand an engagement in the democratic process, individuals who may not necessarily agree on everything, but come to a decision based upon what's best for all students, and that's a pleasure to be a part of. And I know firsthand that this board, to a person, including Alexis and Jen, care about the children so much that they put their heart, their soul, their time, their talents, and their treasure, and put aside their own family for the students of Hendrick Hudson, whether it's 5 in the morning or 2 in the morning. And so, as Erica said, we wish you newfound time with your families, because you have given so much time to your family, away from your family, to the students of Hendrick. And I'm grateful for the role models that you have played for what you expect out of your superintendent.
I just want to say thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to learn from both of you. I think you both bring unique experiences and expertise to the board. I think those will be greatly missed. I don't think it's I don't think it's something that's easily replaced, and I'm very grateful for what value each of you have added, both to me as a human as well as to Hendrick Hudson as a school district. So thank you both very, very much.
To continue on with the superintendent report.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah,
of you
I'm not
looking,
cutting you off.
okay.
I'm not stopping you.
Those of you in the audience or even at the board table may notice this fancy check behind me. As a Frank G. Lindsay student mentioned, it's not a real check. We'd like to find a way to make it a real check. This is a check for $1 million from the Senate, the state of New York, the legislators of the state of New York. As you probably, I don't want to belabor it, but as you are aware, the New York State Legislature in its ending session did pass a $1 million grant to provide the Hendrick Hudson to help alleviate some of the offset in income from the closure of the Hendrick Hudson, of the Indian Point nuclear power plant. So we appreciate the advocacy of many members at this table, of many members in the audience, our teachers union, our PTA advocacy committee, general citizens of Hendrick Hudson who really wanted to put our students first, and the legislator put it literally money where its gavel was. So we appreciate that, and Senator Harkin joined us for a visit today to present our first pre-K and first graders and kindergartners with this check. He actually gave it to a first aid class, but our kindergartners sang to him, and then he visited a lunch for our pre-K students. So it looked like a wonderful time. I had a wonderful time. Some of our board members joined us. So it really was one of those, this is a day, as long as the report that I'm about to give goes well, this has been truly a very special day in the Hendrick Hudson School District. So thank you to Senator Harkin and his colleagues. There are no questions requiring follow-up from the last board meeting at this time, and as always, it's almost 8 o'clock. They've been hitting 10 o'clock lately, so I will tell my kids, because I know they're watching at home, please go to bed. Mommy and Daddy are tired. That's the report at this time.
Cool, excellent, thank you. Well, it's still yours.
Okay.
The floor is still yours, presentation and discussion for this evening.
Thank you. I'll ask Greg to pull up our presentation. So the board has asked me to provide a brief report looking towards 2020, looking towards September. We are in June. If you keep me around long enough, through some cycles, you'll know that when we come back in September, amidst the excitement, some concerns, I'm always reminding people it's almost June. And at this time of year, I like to remind people it's almost September. So in that, for some reason, it's not received with the same laughter when I say that to teachers. I don't know why, but maybe I'll figure that out someday. I wanted to provide a brief update after we go through our mission and vision, as we always do. The objectives of this evening's presentation are to look at some of the programmatic considerations that were being considered for this evening. And I want to drill down into that definition of considered. There are many variables leading to the implementation of something within a school system. If you go back to your science, I'm a social studies teacher, so I apologize if there's any science teachers in the audience. But a system is a closed entity where any change in one variable can lead to a change in other variables. So we're providing this information to the best of our knowledge on this day to help inform and provide people an opportunity to see transparent decision making. So I often think Dwight Eisenhower is from a logistical standpoint, is someone I look up to. He was in charge of the largest amphibious invasion ever, not the largest military operation ever. I know everybody at this table knows that's Operation Barbarossa, so I won't go into that. Social studies teacher, I mean. But he was in charge of the largest naval, that wasn't supposed to be a joke. I'm kidding. So I often think about what Dwight Eisenhower would do if he was a superintendent, if he was in charge in September. He has a line that plans are worthless, but planning is everything. That means that we're not going to be able to address everything that could come up on the first day in September. We often term those as crises, anything that destabilizes a district. We often term some things as emergencies. To certain people, something could be an emergency that's not an emergency to another person just based upon perspective. But the very definition of an emergency is that it's unexpected. You didn't want it to happen. So that is why you try to plan for everything. And just because you plan for something doesn't mean you're going to stop it from happening. You can plan for this heat wave, it's still going to come. So just keep that in mind as we go through some of these items today. Here's an introductory activity. As you know in my reports, if you ask me to give a report, I'm going to ask you to do something. I'm sorry. Service to the district. So what I would like the board members to do, and if you want to play at home, you can follow at home. I'd like you to reflect upon the program presentations, particularly from the budget development process, where we had our administrators, we had our staff come to you and say, this is what we're considering doing for next year. I know you have them ingrained in your minds because when you can't sleep at night, you go back to them and you remember our good times together. But what I would like you to do is to reflect upon some of those meetings and what was presented to you as proposed changes to our program for next year. After you're done silently reflecting, feel free to look around, and if other people have blank stares on their face, feel free to engage them in a discussion on what you had. So we'll take about 4 minutes and 24 seconds to do so.
I got one more.
Budget development. This is program. Right.
Okay, we're ready.
Okay. I was going to give you a minute countdown, but I'd like to open it up to the group at the table to share anything that they remember from their from the budget development presentations.
Elementary.
We have the elementary.
All right, we'll cross that one off.
We mentioned,
That was the easy one.
there was E&L staff that we had to hire.
As you just saw.
Yes, and I think a school psychologist, which we hired for next year, right, Lisa? That's part of our program conversation.
A new sped program.
A new special education program to support our students.
I think we looked at something.
There's technology. We shifted things around in how we're paying for them through BOCES and different things like that.
Or science in elementary school and STEM.
Why is that important for BOCES?
I don't know, because it saves us money.
It's in the budget development.
It saves us money, and we did that in the budget development process, ended up saving us money. What?
I was asking on purpose.
He's asking us-
He's throwing me softballs.
What else? I mean, there was a lot. It's just hard to think off the top of your head as far as specific to program and students.
UPK.
Oh, yes. AIS supports across the board, right? We added AIS supports.
We added it to the elementary school, right? Because it wasn't at the elementary school, it was only at the high school.
For next year.
No, in addition to what we had,
It was always in elementary.
We
It was
enhanced.
always
We
in
enhanced
middle
it,
school.
yeah.
We added it at high school.
Well, no, we enhanced it in elementary.
No, this year we are moving someone else into elementary.
Yeah, enhanced it while growing.
Anybody else? Pretty good. Listen, the budget process is a grind, right? And to remember back that far, it's almost as if you get through the process and you try to, I call it the summer learning loss, or summer budget loss. During the budget development season, let's be very considerate of spending and why we do things and what we need, and then it comes the fall, and the question is, well, why don't we have this? And so it's all about education, and this is a continuance of that process. What I would like to, just if we go to the next slide, for those of you watching at home, I'm not going to take time on this, but I will defer to it in my weekly updates, which I know are read thoroughly, and also on link. Why does everybody laugh when I say that? Also linked on this slide presentation, which is on Board Docs. We do have a schedule for the final weeks of school, which we're in the middle of, but that's just there for people's reference. If we go to the next slide, I want to look backwards a little bit before we go forwards. There has been transition planning through a task force that as soon as the board voted to adopt a revision to policy 5110, we convened a task force to help us plan for that, made up of a number of various stakeholders who have met on a regular basis over the last couple of months to help plan for that transition. On a regular basis, our administrative team provides updates on the work that has been done. They field questions, they receive feedback and suggestions, and we have a number of stakeholders at that table, and it's a really good problem-solving group. So that group is still meeting as we speak, and has really done a fantastic job of working through some of the difficult considerations and difficult problems to help make that transition seamless for students and staff. And while it may not be perfect, at least we've had people at the table who have had input, their voices heard, their concerns addressed or at least brought to the table, so that we as administrators who are tasked with carrying out the policy can consider that as we plan for that transition. In terms of elementary considerations, and again, this is not an exhaustive list, so many things go into a new school year, all the way down to a teacher looking at how they're going to redesign an instructional unit or even a lesson itself. So this is not anywhere near exhaustive or all-inclusive. We have been looking at supports for the transition grades. We just recently had a Q&A with principals, and I'm not going to insult your intelligence, but I'll just go through some of the generalizations here. We are also looking to create connections across buildings that serve similar grade levels, and you can see some of the efforts that are being planned or that are in the planning phase here. In terms of our middle school program, if we go to the next slide, if we focus on some of the changes within the instructional program, we've also looked at focusing, I'm sorry, Greg, I think we need to go one more slide. We're looking at Blue Mountain Middle School. We're looking at changes to enhance the instructional program, looking at changes to address a focus on the whole child, and increasing instructional supports, as you can see here. We move to the high school. I have provided a link in this slide deck to the Hendrick Hudson High School Program of Studies for next year, which provides various information about the instructional program. You can see some specific changes that Ms. Scollins and Dr. Kleinman are bringing into the high school, as well as also instructional supports that are being considered as the schedules are being released in their draft form. And if we go to the next slide, the high school, as we've mentioned before, will have a focus of professional learning on the New York State Performance-Based Learning and Assessment Network pilot, which Dr. Ruller, Ms. Scollins, our teachers, teacher leadership all played a part in applying for the pilot, and we were selected as a school district with a focus on creating performance-based assessments centered around the CTE strand that the New York State is considered. There's also a focus on supporting the whole child. I do want to take some time to talk to you about BOCE CTE offerings. Our administrative team with Dr. Ruller, Ms. Scollins, Lisa, Shookman and Dr. Kleinman has been looking at our students' applications and acceptance into the BOCES CTE or Career and Technical Education Program. It was widely known that they have made some changes. They've seen increased participation in that, so they've had to reconsider how they approach things. I've contacted the district superintendent there directly. For data points, last year, throughout the entire year to date, we have sent 92 students to the CTE program. This year, as of a few weeks ago, actually last week, we have already enrolled 96 students, so there's already an increase, but we have seen that there's an increase in students wanting to take that offering. BOCES knows they have to take a look at the application process. They will be starting a task force shortly, and Dr. Kleinman has already been notified that he will be a part of that on how we can make the application process more transparent, more conducive. In general terms, there's a lot of demand for BOCES programs right now. And they know that they may even need to consider it a capital project for themselves to expand. A BOCES capital project is much more difficult than a district's project. They have to get all component districts to agree to that as well.
All component districts?
All component districts.
Like 100%.
I believe it's 100%.
And vote?
And vote,
The communities.
the communities.
That's confusing.
Both, they are part of BOCES and their bill would be,
Totally understood. It's just.
But it would go on our, probably annual vote.
correct.
So just to clarify, BOCES CTE offerings are for 11th and 12th graders. Yes.
It's not by mandate that it's for 11 and 12th graders, but we take that approach because we want students attending BOCES programs who are on track to graduate rather than they attend a BOCES program without meeting their graduation requirements, and then they'd have to come back and do credit recovery to graduate. So you normally see 11th and 12th graders.
And you said how many, 90?
For this year or current, for next year?
What, 92 this year, 96 next year right now?
Correct.
Do we know how many of our students that didn't get placed?
I believe there were 17 students who were in the waiting process to hear if they were attending. When I spoke to, let me pull up the specific data points that I have on that.
What are the, outside of track for graduation, is there requirements to be eligible to participate, such as, I don't want to use the word behavioral, but maybe like a requirement from like a school citizenry perspective, where you have to be, yeah, or just, I mean, if you have you're not constantly getting referred for behavioral problems, so
Or attendance?
all of these different sort of components that go in, is there anything that indicates who wouldn't be eligible, or is it just first?
Did they ask that?
So, in general terms, let's take the case of a student who may have an IEP for a 12-1-2 on their, or a 12-1-1 on their class in the IEP. BOCES is going to look at that to see if their class that allows 30 students in that class, would that be an appropriate setting for that student? So they'll look at those things. The district superintendent shared with me that it's not mandatory that they look at disciplinary records, but if they have a class that has a bandsaw, for example, in it, if they see a trend of behavioral patterns, they will want to take a deeper dive into that. They did have a student last year who did get hurt by the bandsaw, so they want to make sure it's safe for students as well. In general terms, of the 70 new applicants that Henrik Hudson had this year compared to last year, about a week, 7 days ago, we had 24 of those students, we had 24 of those students who were being reviewed. 7 were waitlisted as of the last time I touched base with the BOCES district superintendent. And he said that they were getting through the waitlist review program, and we should hear back on those 7 students in the next week or so. So currently we may have up to 7 students currently waitlisted.
Not 17.
Not 17.
Is the application process the same for every district? Hendrick Hudson doesn't have something different
No.
to require a student can go to BOCES. So if we have a student who has a 70 average, do they qualify to go to BOCES? Or is just passing?
Lisa knows much more about the CTE program than I do.
So we want our students to be in good standing. We at the end can get our students, if we don't feel our students will be on track to graduate, and BOCES would prohibit that, we would encourage them to stay here and graduate because there is a cost to BOCES. So in general terms, it's normally handled on a case-by-case review. I don't believe there's a threshold of 70 or 85, but you want your student to be progressive towards graduation.
There's no requirement that way. It's like Mike said earlier, it is credits. We have sent 7th and 8th graders in the past just to kind of connect them to school. We did that just before COVID, right? But remember, it's a general education program. It's not a special education program. They do have 3 different seatings during the day, an AM and a PM session, and a midday. Midday sometimes are much smaller classes and more instructors in the class. Like I had a student go to culinary that only had 12 students and a teacher and 2 teaching assistants. And they mixed with other kids, but they kept it very small. So it really depends on what your interests are and if they have that midday program too.
Does BOCES allocate a specific number of seats per district? So is it beneficial for us to make sure we get our children, our students, to apply earlier so that there's a higher likelihood of acceptance? Or how does that work? Is it first come, first serve, or?
So we're really in uncharted territory because BOCES was never really at this limit where they had to pick and choose. So the best answer I can say is I'm going to have to look into that, how they're addressing that now. I think that's why they're establishing a task force to see are there changes that they should make. We are also doing things locally. I know Lisa wants to make sure that all of our students have good placement, so she has reached out to Southern Westchester BOCES because they have a similar program, and it may be an opportunity for them to provide service to our students. So we're taking that approach. But many times students are waitlisted to ensure that they have the skills needed to have a successful opportunity in the required program. As an example, 2 of our students, one was looking into the medical assistant program and the sports assistant program. Their scores in science may not have been as strong, so they were taking a deeper dive to see if those students would be successful with supports, of course, but wanting it to be a positive experience for our students. So we just wanted to take a moment to look into the BOCES CTE offerings and what we're doing as a district to make sure that our students are being communicated with, but also having an opportunity to participate in these programs. Any other questions about BOCES CTE before I move on? Okay. Greg, next slide, please. In terms of our athletic considerations, this was the extra credit question for our budget presentation.
No, you said it, we just didn't say it out loud.
All right, extra credit, 5 gold stars, pick them up at the end of the year. We did. You get a glass apple.
Tamika. She needs
So,
We gotta wait 2 years.
Mr. Baker, in his program presentation, suggested that we do have 2 site coordinator positions established, and that would be to, number 1, provide more supports for our student athletes, including supervision at events, coordination of events. Our athletic staff does a fantastic job. They're a small but mighty group, and these 2 positions would assist them in providing coverage to those events. They are currently, these are items that have to be negotiated with our collective bargaining unit, the HHCSD, so that is in the process right now. If we go to the next slide, it's almost September, as I said. So here are some considerations on everything we're doing to get ready for the opening of school next year. And I know it may seem trivial, not on here, as all the work that our custodial staff, our technology staff has to do in a delicate dance of getting the classrooms clean, ready to receive students. And also at the elementary school, the move that's occurring with the transition. But we also do a great deal of planning to make sure our efforts are aligned and coherent, starting with our Board of Education. You can see that we have aligned our Board of Education retreat with our administrative retreat to ensure that there's cohesion and alignment between the Board of Education and the administration. Wanted to mention it's almost Portal Day. Portal Day is when Infinite Campus opens up and is accurate. As a recovering director of technology, one of the scariest things I had was Portal Day. I liken it to this. You tell people to come to a barbecue at 2 o'clock. They show up at noon and the barbecue is not ready and they're upset. So Oftentimes, there is a lot of maintenance that occurs within our instructional technology platforms, such as the systems that our students will use every day and in Infinite Campus. It's a complex dance, not only to get classrooms ready, but to get instructional applications ready. And sometimes we need to test that out, which means we have to turn the portal on, and sometimes it can be hard to turn off. Because I know everybody in this room has said, I saved that, and that didn't save for whatever reason. That also happens too with technology experts. So our portal official day, even if you go on there and you are able to access information by chance, please let us know, not on Facebook, email us. If it's open by chance, please let us know so we can make sure that it is properly secure, because we want correct information out there. That is our ultimate goal. The most correct information we can assure you at this time will be prepared for August 23rd of this summer. So that will be finalized schedules to the best of our ability, including transportation schedule. Anita, did I miss anything?
No, actually, you're right, except that they now built in blackout periods within the system because of exactly what you're describing.
So they listened to my feedback, and I'm out of date with technology. So if only I had that when I was there. Okay. So, Greg, if we go to the next slide, just a reminder of opening of school. These are the new start times for our buildings. And we have everything planned down to if there's an early release with lunch or without lunch for your review. This can be found on our district website. And it is currently not the active information. You have to click on a radio button to access this, but it is here for those of you who don't want to go searching for that. And then if we go to the next slide, New York State Education Department is also, they do have some considerations that they are looking at. The Blue Ribbon Commission on Graduation provided an update to the New York State Board of Regents this past, I believe, about a week ago. If you're bored, board members, board, I did provide that link to the entire meeting in my most recent board update. It's there for your viewing pleasure. If you think my jokes are bad, do that. So these are some considerations that the Board of Regents is looking into. That regents may no longer be a graduation requirement. They still are required for federal accountability measures. They're looking to move to one diploma type. There's no specific date yet on if these items will go live. I did update you. New York State is considering in September of 2025. The legislation has passed the state House and Senate. It is waiting for Governor Hochul's approval. That would mandate if temperatures reach 82 degrees that school districts provide an option to move to a cooler space. And if school districts go above 88 degrees internally, they would have to send students home. They can't cool that. So that is on the governor's desk to be signed. So we as a district have to start looking at what that means to our operations and how we instruct students. We have to start having conversations, and also emergency drills will now require in next year. So the heat condition days are for 2025. Emergency drills now require advance notice. That's very broad. To families that the drills will be occurring, and those drills have to be conducted in a trauma-informed manner. So that will go into effect next September. And then, Greg, the next slide. Already looking at 25-26. Budget development planning will begin in October. We get one day off from budget, and that is the day after the budget vote. So if it's a past budget. So we're also ensuring that our high school and middle school site-based teams are exploring possible schedule changes. So if there are going to be schedule changes that will benefit our students from a programmatic standpoint in a streamlining way, while also balancing the fact that program and costs go hand in hand, and we're looking to balance a budget. We have asked our site-based teams and our building administration to begin those conversations this spring, as a matter of fact. And now, Greg, if we go to the last slide, I open it up to any board questions on the information they've just received, and I just want to thank, I know I say it in jest, but we are already planning for 25 and 26 in some cases. So I want to thank our administrators, faculty, staff for their thoughtful input, their foresight, and their eye to always making sure that our
We've
Because
never
they
even
cannot
discussed
fit
that.
all three of the grades on there, so that's why I'm asking to just, if somebody could just.
We never
Oh,
discussed that.
So Martha, that building is always had the same amount of students.
Well, roughly, it always hovered around that number. It was always, yeah, right. Yeah.
So you're not putting any more students in the building, it's not holding any more.
I don't believe.
Okay, so.
Yeah. I just wanted to come up, yeah.
No, I do not recall. That's
Any other questions?
We know what principal said that.
I don't know, I was just asking a question.
I was just saying, because maybe that was also conveyed to other people.
Well, it was 7. So that's why I was like, I was asked the question and I said, oh, see, I don't know what the schedule is. And then I just saw that it's 2:20 for dismissal. And I'm like, if lunches are going till 1:15, it means kids aren't eating until right before they get on the bus. So that's why I'm asking the question.
Any other questions? Okay. That takes us to our policy readings for the. Okay, go ahead, Erica, take it over.
The first reading is the Hendrick Hudson Policy 5300, Hendrick Hudson School District Code of Conduct.
Can I make the motion to waive the reading? I make the motion to waive the
Sorry. District Administrators, Michael Trombley, Superintendent of Schools, Enrique Catalan.
Can I make a motion to waive the reading? Second. All in favor?
I'm sorry.
She was thinking.
You don't want to make the motion?
Well, she said, you want to add that.
Eric, you want to explain why the code of conduct is up here as a policy? Because it hasn't been in the past. It has, so, yeah, so the code of conduct should be under policy 5300. It has not been. We are moving it into its proper location by reading it and placing it here for the first time.
But we do have some changes to it in red. Correct, or am I reading that incorrect?
Correct. So the way the policy, it's never been a policy before. We've always had the code of conduct and made changes to the code of conduct. So revised every year, but we now we're gonna place it as a policy. And a policy.
So we're making them.
So assigning is a policy number, 5300. It's not changing. We're making those updates. Because those are some of the updates through the site-based team.
So it is straighter, but these are just updates.
Those are the normal updates from the hearing that we just had, like we normally have a hearing every year. To showcase the, updates that we do in the code of conduct. This year, we're just gonna place it as a policy number, because we don't have it as currently as a policy.
We can discuss it, because I mean. Just, I know I see the wheels in your head turning. So in the past, because it wasn't under the policy like this, the board probably never had a discussion around it in a similar fashion. Right? Right?
Well, I'm thinking
So
of the
you-
hearing.
So we had the hearing, which is public.
Okay, I don't remember anyone coming.
Well, we just had a public comment.
But
So now this is
people-
the policy, the actual physical policy that will be placed, but this is a draft.
Okay,
So you're seeing in red is changes that were made in site-based based on recommendations or, bringing us up to legal verbiage.
and the site-based team for the code of conduct is made up of who?
Parents,
Parents,
staff,
staff.
principals, like teachers, principals, administrators.
So, I mean, I've actually brought the code of conduct up before with the videotaping.
It's on here.
It's on here.
We added it.
So my one issue with the code of conduct is that I feel like enforcement is subjective. So one student, and that's, I'm actually a little concerned about that, how if it's the same infraction based on the student, you might end up with different punishments or repercussions. And I kind of would like it to be buttoned up more,
More
so it's
clear.
more uniform. So no matter what you do and who you are, you get the same. So if, I mean, just some of the things in the code of conduct and how they're addressed. it leads itself to be subjective based on who's doing the referral process, what teacher is doing the referral process. And then really, I'm thinking that the administration probably does handle discipline uniformly. But once again, if I'm a teacher and I'm making a referral, for me, I might make the referral right away. For another teacher, it might be a classroom management thing that the student doesn't even get the referral. And that's just true. And the other thing is, one thing might bother me, and I would just talk to a student after class. Or I might write it up and then it becomes an issue. So, I mean, I just think that some of the things in here have to have a more uniform approach, so all children are treated equally.
So for consideration, what we look to balance is that we want to make sure that our students are being held to the same standards, which the code of conduct generally outlines. This is our expectations for how we want you to behave. And here are possible sanctions should you make choices or find yourself in a situation. For the board's consideration, I definitely agree with you that it's part of our job as administrators to support teachers in addressing things at the lowest level possible, whether through their expectations, whether through their constant reinforcement of positive behaviors, and also to understanding the role that removal of a classroom may have on a student if they seek discipline. So while teachers can't suspend, teachers can remove from instruction, but they have to meet certain thresholds and certain requirements have to be met. It is a educational, professional learning opportunity for building principals to work with teachers on removal of classrooms and referrals for teachers. That being said, I can understand the consideration of standardizing and making it uniform. But one thing that you might want to consider, and this is an extreme, but often extremes are used to provide illustrative purposes. There used to be a zero tolerance policy in effect, and I believe it's still in effect to some extent, but it was, if you brought a firearm to school, you were automatically suspended for a year. What they saw with the implementation of that, you think of rural areas in New York State, Johnny goes home, it's hunting season, Johnny has his gun in the gun rack of a car. Johnny's mom says, before you go hunting, pick up your sister from soccer practice. Johnny drives on to school property, has the gun rack in his car, Johnny is suspended for school encouragement. No questions asked, no leniency. There is an approach to, in certain cases, discretion on the behalf of the administrator. There are due process rights that we do have in effect. So for instance, if a school administrator chooses to suspend a student for more than 5 days, it does go before the superintendent, and it's superintendent serves as, was the sanction applied based upon evidence that the school is providing, does that warrant further suspension? And I'll tell you that it's our job as central office administrators is to work with principals on appropriate discipline. What may be appropriate for one student may not be appropriate for another. A lot of factors go into that. What's going on at home? If you do suspend for more than 5 days, is it causing a detriment because we aren't accessing some services that are provided? Is the student, is there food, a concern about access to food at home, or being in school may be an opportunity for that student to still continue to get fed? So it's a very complex item that we have to balance as a school district, where the code of conduct does provide expectations in general that we can speak a common language to.
No, I agree with that, but I just, from my own experience, I have seen that it's not uniform. And when something is not uniform, it makes people feel like they might be targeted. I think that you have to have a uniform approach to all of this.
Steph, if I hear you correctly, is the question the code of conduct? Or is the question how we measure the grown-ups and their utilization of the enforcement categories tied to the code of conduct. Because the code of conduct may be clear, but if I like the Yankees and my teacher likes the Mets, and this is extreme and silly, but for your point for illustrative purposes, it makes sense. And my teacher sends me to the principal every time I get caught talking about the Yankees. Is that because the code of conduct wasn't clear, or is that because maybe we didn't measure that when the Mets won the World Series, everybody in class was celebrating with the teacher, but if the Yankees won, there was a problem? So maybe it's about how do we measure the data points that are tied to referrals if there's a pattern where maybe someone is using their own personal lens and skewing their opportunity to have an appropriate implementation of said code of conduct.
And I'll give you an example. I wear a t-shirt that says, I don't throw like a girl. You might find that extremely offensive, and then I get sent home. But then she wears the same t-shirt to school, and beneath is the teacher, and doesn't think of it whatsoever. We all have a personal lens when we're looking at people and what we might find offensive. So like we could do a little poll right now. Who finds that offensive? I throw like a girl. You know, but I'm telling you, someone else here might. So there's your subjectivity, and you're right, there needs to be training. So if this code of conduct is in place, if you can't wear it to school, I can't come in as your bestie the next day wearing it and not have a problem. And I think that you're right, Jeremy, your example was very good, but I'm using it towards something that could be offensive and get into trouble, and something that would not be offensive to me and you that wouldn't get them in trouble. I think that the code of conduct is good, and I don't have a problem with that, but there needs to be training to the people who implement this code of conduct.
Does our staff receive like implicit bias training at any point? Have they received it at any point?
And I'll give you another example. Personal, pants sagging. My son wearing his pants sagging, or I shouldn't say, student A wearing his pants sagging. Stupid. I'm not offended by that. I'm not loving the look, but I find it more of a fashion statement. But teacher Ed might be highly offended by that and think that she's being sexually harassed by that. Or sexually, I'm just saying that there needs to be implicit bias training so that this kind of thing does not occur.
So to your point, I think it's always important to train our staff and our students and our community on our expectations. To what I would say is, as we consider this code of conduct as a document we revisit, is to look at those things that lead to subjectivity where subjectivity is not appropriate. Okay. You use the word offensive. I would look to the code of conduct and make sure in our dress code that offensive was used sparingly. So if you go to page 39 of the code of conduct, it's not that it's an item that is found offensive by another individual. It doesn't disrupt the educated process. Let me give you an example. If I wear a shirt that may not have anything clearly laid out inside of the vulgarity, obscenity, but let's say it was a cat that had a waving hand, and the whole time, like a 3D or an ugly sweater that was just so ugly, right? Everybody was just staring at that sweater, and it's causing disruptions to the class. People couldn't focus on the lesson. The teacher had to address, Tommy, turn the lights off. Sorry, Tommy, if you have a sweater out there, you know, that could be seen as, you know what, Tommy, maybe you shouldn't wear that shirt. And what I would say, it should be a conversation first before discipline. Especially, we are a school district, we are helping students to make proper choices. And at some developmental ages, students are testing boundaries, they're exploring themselves. So I would hope that the first conversation is not a disciplinary referral, particularly a first time, but hey, Tom, I like the sweater, but there's an appropriate time and place for it. Maybe not that sweater in class tomorrow when we're having a test. Maybe it could be done at the holiday.
Do we look through the referrals to see where most of them are? you know, like what offenses, so if we look at how many referrals we're getting, and they're mostly for this offense, and what we're doing.
I don't know if they do it regularly, but I can remember a time here, a while back when Laura and I and Tina Wilson were APs here, where we did have that conversation, and it's very interesting. And that's part of the PBIS training too. When you have a discipline problem, we need to make a determination, is there a pattern? Is it always happening at this time? Is it always happening at this location? What's the trigger that's causing this, and then how can we change that, right? That was interesting. Yeah.
I mean, because that really would help us judge. And you're looking at the punishments. To see if it's effective.
And that's good internal work. At the state level, we do have to submit yearly, a list of all suspensions and the infractions that cause that, to make sure that we are, with demographic data, to make sure we are not over sanctioning a particular demographic group or not.
Yeah. Same thing with academic issues. You go to an MTSS meeting, especially at secondary where kids have multiple teachers. You want to know if the problem that I'm seeing in English is seen in every other class, or is it me? Maybe it's me as the teacher. So it's important to have all of that information available.
Let's read it, Pearson said.
Oh.
Read it, Pearson. I think that's your lesson, and she's talking about every child deserves a champion.
Oh, right.
And if the child doesn't like you,
Right.
they're going to cause problems in your class, so you really have to think about that.
You need
Is
the
it me
whole
as a
picture.
teacher, how can I connect with that student?
Can we present that information to the community that we report to the state about how many suspensions we have, how many out of school, based that, break it down by demographic data? I mean, at least we're keeping an eye on. So we know where we are as a district, especially with the person who wrote in about, you know, our out of school suspension. How many times are we giving out of school suspension? Is it targeting one demographic
Or repeat offenders.
or repeat offenders? I mean,
I don't know if that is, so they've changed the name, it used to be called Vader.
So there's a few different places that actually do suspension that's report, like 10 days or like attendance and suspension. Vader is more, you know,
Bless you.
detention.
well, it's really about, you know, disruptive behavior that is very violent in nature. And that now includes DASA reports as well, but doesn't do suspensions, but they do require, if it is a violent in nature, then you should have an out of school suspension or in school suspension with some kind of consequence, but it doesn't really say report that. But CRDC, which is a civil rights data collection, also asks for suspension data. Now that's every year. It used to be every 2 years. Now it's every year that we're doing civil rights data collection. And that's by, you know, ethnicity and gender and all of that.
Does it have detention in it as well?
It doesn't have detention, it has suspension data. Not detention.
That would be a phone, so that's something we can.
Yeah, we can pull that from us. Yeah, we can't, yes.
No, that would just be nice to see.
that's
We've done that.
What else in this do we want to look at? I mean, I'm trying to find where we added the lines about video recording and I don't see it.
Well, it's not in red because we did it last year.
No, we changed it.
I thought it's a whole nother policy.
No, that is too. There's that exists as well. But it's within this somewhere. I just wanted to point it out to Stephanie so she can see it. I don't see it in here and I know we talked about it.
Stephanie's right, she put last year. She brought it up last year, about the video conference.
Yeah, but we changed the wording of it slightly, I thought.
This year?
And last
In
year,
site-based, we discussed it.
changed my wording too.
We enhanced, no, we enhanced it.
Now she enhanced it. No, I'm just playing with you.
Not me, you can be the site-based.
No,
The shared decision planning.
I'm
November
looking for a
next year.
video and I'm not seeing anything.
We will find it and I will make sure that it's in here, because that was something that,
Oh, it's underneath 42, non-consensual photographing or taping.
I feel like we discussed this in the shared decision meeting,
We did, yes.
42.
But I feel like it's,
So yes, if you go under, it's on page 42, but it falls under,
Oh, non-consensual photographing or taping.
it falls under,
Engage in any
Uh,
act.
prohibited student contact, so that's 11. So Article 11, which begins on 38. Item 12, I'm sorry, well. That's your own list.
Like, there's two dash.
I just
No,
don't.
what am I gonna do without you?
Are we really, I'm gonna say this and then we're gonna move on. I think the word taping is out of date. I think we need to change it. I do too.
So it's under Article 12. Item Foxtrot, yes. And it talks about that a prohibited activity is,
Non-consensual photography, photographing, or we have to change taping to recording.
yeah,
Okay. And then we added that.
yes, because I don't think,
That wasn't there.
do you want to say there is one cleanup item if you go under DASA coordinators? This process had started prior to the budget passing. We would be changing the district DASA coordinator to the new director, assistant superintendent for human resources
As of July 1st.
as of July 1st.
This, so we review this every year, because I'm every year. You're just now putting policy, to do that.
I don't think we've ever really done that.
Normally what districts do is if they don't have it in policy, they do have a public comment period because that's required and then it's adopted as a resolution.
Yeah. But not with safety seat, we just updated it internally.
So here's the overall process that we undertook. It started in the spring. We asked building principals to review this in an administrative meeting. We asked for their input. We asked them to bring it back to their faculty to provide input. We then brought it back to our safety teams and our site-based teams for additional input prior to bringing to the shared decision-making committee.
And then to the shared decision-making committee discuss all of that together in a group,
Prior to public comment.
and then bringing, yes, prior to public comment, and then bringing it. So it was a lot of,
A lot of people have seen this.
yes.
Okay, so this comes back next week.
July 1st.
First one. Okay, moving on to the next.
Okay, so the second reading of, this is the second reading of policy 0000, philosophy, goals, and objectives. The Hendrick Hudson Board of Education recognizes that to govern effectively.
motion to waive the reading of policy 000, educational philosophy mission statement.
Second. All in favor?
Then I can put it wait a minute now. Read it. Or do you want?
I guess this is on that side. I thought we said we were gonna look at, like, we were gonna,
So we met as a policy
okay,
team,
yeah, I guess.
and we couldn't really. So we did switch around mission and vision.
Okay,
This is from the strategic plan. And it's referenced here now that it's from the strategic plan. We talked about the opening lines, I know, what's your, I guess, what's the concern? I mean, we do not have to approve this tonight. This is not something that has to be approved tonight. What are your thoughts?
the values piece I find like very simple and not very well defined. I mean, I'm not, like, I don't dislike the mission and vision. Yes, I wasn't really, kind of went back and forth with this, and this like didn't really have a lot of discussion. I know we say it did in strategic plan. A bunch amongst a very, to be honest, a very small group of people. So did this go to site-based teams?
This went to the shared decision-making team to discuss bringing it forward as the policy to align the strategic plan in our mission and vision based on the NISBA recommendation to update the policy.
So personally, I would like to see this go to site-based teams because I feel like we are modifying, we are putting this in place to, ease a group of, a group, that's not what I mean. A policy, the site-based team, the definition of the site-based team policy or.
The shared, you're saying this is part of the shared decision-making plan that was developed based on the strategic plan, directives. So
Like, I don't think this got a lot of community input. I really do not.
the only thing that I'll say to this is that because this, and it was never really explained this way, but because the strategic plan's been in place now for a couple of years, right? And then it's a 5-year plan. So 2026, I think we revisit it, I think. Don't quote me on the numbers. I think that's around what we do. We can do a few things. I mean, I think it was never clear, so I'm gonna say, it was never ever clear. And when we asked the question to the former board. And originally, and when we asked the question to Ed Elements, who worked on this with them, it was not really clear. That this was going to be a replacement of our mission and vision statement.
Yeah.
So I guess to understand is how would a mission and vision statement get done otherwise, right? And is it something that we would like to revisit sooner?
Maybe
You wanna shift that, Mike?
I have a thought though.
Sorry.
Why, so technically, no, it's different.
Because normally, if you remember, Stephanie had brought this up. Normally, when you do a strategic plan. Part of that is replacing your mission and vision statement, it's just part of it.
No, I know, but here we are now, right? And I feel like while it's great that we put it up on our board agenda and it's not board docs, but we know most people aren't going there, maybe there's another way to share this with the community. And get their feedback before we actually vote it in. So,
Well,
bad idea?
it is in our strategic plan that has been everywhere. I mean, it has.
Yeah, but it's not called out, right? Like, we're talking about changing the mission of the district. I don't hate it, I don't love it, right? And I feel
I mean,
like
I wasn't involved, so no one at this table. Maybe more than Lisa, but I don't even think that they was involved in the creation of this. Does that mean it doesn't have value? Absolutely not, does not mean that at all. What it means is that it might not match all the work we've been doing, maybe it doesn't feel like it's the right mission and vision statement, so what I would ask is. What would we do? What could we do to share this with the community and say, here's what the mission and vision has been. Which, by the way, that came from the strategic plan prior to this one. And then here's what we've been, has as the guiding mission and vision that we'd like to replace with and get feedback from the community. Would that make you feel more comfortable with it?
well, my question, and I just leaned over and asked, Mike was like, what do other districts do besides through a strategic plan?
There are a myriad of number of different ways you can set the mission and vision for the district. You can bring in a consultant, you can have your leadership team do it, you can have stakeholder groups do it. If you listen to Brad Geis, you can say, he has this argument that if you look at all the mission statements across the nation, they probably say pretty much the same thing, but do they focus on student outcomes? And are they built on perception data that help develop what the community wants to do to inform those student outcomes? So there's a number of different ways we can do it. I think the board is right to say, does the mission and vision reflect so vision is what we hope to become in the future. Often set in ideals that you would strive for, you may not be able to attain, but it's very lofty goals. Your mission is what you do, what the organization does day in and day out. And then your values are basically how you hold each other as an educational community. How do you hold each other accountable when you are not following your mission or vision? And how do you, when you disagree on things, do those values help inform how you should behave? That's the general Cliff Notes version of a mission and vision setting. I've set mission and vision for working teams before. I've been a part of districts that have brought in a consultant to do so. I've been part of districts where they do it as part of the strategic plan with various stakeholder groups led by some district administrators. A number of different ways to do it, but your tenets are right and true, where you're looking for stakeholder input and you want it to reflect what we actually do. So that's a very long answer at 9 o'clock at night of saying, however you want to do it, we can do it.
So the strategic plan people, everyone who met for the strategic plan, and that was on the committees that were at the library, did this.
No,
No,
just the steering committee developed it.
just the steering.
And that was the original steering committee in 2021.
And I'm just thinking back of when we did our mission and vision statement and all the teachers met in small groups. And by department, we rewrote the mission and vision and we all submitted it. And then we all came together in a faculty meeting. And we worked on it together to synthesize it. And then each building came together to synthesize all the 5 buildings together into a mission and vision. And then it went out to the community. So, I mean, I'm wondering how involved the teachers,
The ones that were on the steering committee were involved.
how many people were on the steering?
20.
One. So
But it's also on the strategic document.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say.
That's what I'm saying, it's been in our.
One of our documents of the strategic plan.
No.
What's the-
That was, first of all, when it was presented, that was presented as the mission and vision for the strategic plan.
They were on the.
Never as the mission and vision for the district.
Right.
That's kind of my
Yes.
frustration with this, if that had been the case, then as soon as we developed our pillars, we should have voted this policy change in right away.
Right.
And now we are here 2 years
Agreed,
later,
agreed.
all of a sudden, I don't understand how we got here. I think the shared decision, the
Planning
other,
team.
the plan. What's driving this change? The steering? No, the.
It's a,
So this goal.
No.
no, it started with the NISBA. It started with the fact that this is one of the ones that was up. And then we had a conversation around where this came from, our mission and vision, and honestly, the other one was like very long.
It is very.
And honestly, it was developed in 2000 and I don't know, 10, it's old, it was older. So this was meant to be, I think in all the conversation we had, this was sort of meant to be the strategic, the mission and vision. It just never got done. Now, again, this doesn't have to be it. We can pause this. We can go out to the community. We can get, I mean, because like I said, none of us were on this. None of us were involved. You were on the board and we're not involved. So what do you want us to do as next step?
I mean, I just think I would like to see more community look at this, besides us talking about people. Whether we bring it back to site-based teams, I think that would be like the minimal that I think we should do, is bring it back to site-based teams and building leaders and see what we could. Because you have parents, you have teachers, and you have building leaders all involved, and then it could go to the shared decision-making team, and then it could come back to the board.
Okay.
But I think just taking it from the shared decision-making policy, because if we wanted to reference strategic plan, I'm
I
not
just think it's
really.
more of a, for me, it was more of a reminder that we should be following our strategic plan. That was for me. For me, it's just a reminder of that. We had the strategic plan. None of us agreed on, this was again, not our doing, but the district spent a lot of money. Yeah, the district spent a lot of money developing the strategic plan. So it's, for me, it's always good to have if this is the mission vision, it's always a reminder that that is what we are working on and working towards. That's my 2 cents on it, but I'm happy to, let's bring it back, and I'm not committed to this in any capacity.
So would the purpose, if we undergo the revision process, would the purpose be to ensure that there is alignment of the mission and vision to the strategic plan?
I guess, yes, but more
This
so
is a clear
than-
distinction, because if you're backing into a strategic plan, when you develop, if you want to make sure that there's alignment, you're going to have to do a little bit of backing in, or else there could be some separation. It can be done. I think we just need to be mindful that we want the strategic plan to be aligned to the mission and vision. And since the strategic plan
Yeah.
has already been adopted by
Yes.
we're going to have to be mindful of that if we do revisions to the mission and vision.
Yes.
Or we can just.
Done, Paul.
It says that we do annual reviews.
Yes.
So it's not like, I mean, I get what you're saying, and it was brought to the board that that the strategic plans, vision and mission were never meant to replace.
It didn't change for 11 years. Not really annually.
I mean.
It should be, that's the
Feel
thing,
very
again,
confident
we're not following.
I mean, we could vote and I can vote the way I want, like, I think. Personally, I don't think it had very much community input.
I'm with Jen.
Okay,
entirely.
I was on the board, it did not, I went through it.
It started when we joined the board and
So I would just like it to go back to site-based teams. I would like to make sure that, because this changes. Every single time Mike talks.
Yes.
Has to be like, it all changes and how we talk about leader goals. This is the basis of how every single one of your presentations starts and how you expect every single one of your staff members' presentations to start. And are they on board with this? Is this what they want to see? Is this what our parents want to see? Is this what our teachers want to see?
Well, the administrators were there that day in that room. I think all of them except for one, just for context. That just, they were present.
When they were present, was it? I really was not overly concerned, but as this conversation's developed, I'm learning a little bit more of areas that are causing question. And I don't have the context, so I'm asking. When this was it created to be the mission and vision of the district or the strategic plan? And if it was only the mission and vision of the strategic plan, then it doesn't seem appropriate to adopt it does it appropriate to change the mission and vision we have without first getting input from the community to adopt what we're asking for? Because we're asking for it to be for the district, not for the strategic plan. So if this was created for the strategic plan, then it seems inappropriate to adopt it for the district.
So I think it was created
I don't know.
by the small group of people that were involved, thinking that this would be the mission and vision statement. Then there was between Ed Elements and maybe some leadership, it never actually got adopted. That's the story. So here we are.
So what are you guys gonna do? I think just what Jeremy just said, and Jeff. I mean, what's the harm in bringing it back? Maybe everyone, maybe you get
If
people
everyone
along.
agrees at all.
It was also 4 years ago, 3 years ago,
2021.
3, right?
Yeah.
Then you voted in September. I would like the site teams to take a look at this.
Well, I will agree with you at your parting wish.
So do we have to make a motion?
I don't know. How does that work?
To bring this back to the table?
Yes.
Well, when? You have to say when, right?
Like, November,
Our mid-October meeting?
is that enough time? Should we do mid-November?
You have to delay the motion to a certain time, don't you?
We don't have our schedule. We just don't have our schedule yet.
I would say like the second meeting in November, so that there's time to get back to school.
We don't have the date yet, so could you?
Say the second meeting in November.
Yeah, you can probably.
At what point was the motion? You were,
Make a
We did
motion.
it, we did it. We waited
No,
to
no, no.
read it, just wait for the discussion.
Well, we started to think of vote.
No. That
No,
was
we never
just a vote. That's what I was gonna tell you, Jen. We were just voting to waive the reading. So technically you could have voted and then we were gonna have discussion about it. Okay.
you could
Yes.
make a motion to table.
Yeah.
Okay. We have to give a date then?
No, table is just later in the meeting or at another time.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so,
A second will be needed and majority vote will be required to table the item.
I'll make a motion to table. The discussion around policy 0000. Until we have more community input.
All in favor? Tamika's not here, so. Well, 1, 2, 3, there's 5 of us. Okay. Next, policy, second reading. Second reading. Policy 1120, school district record. It is the policy of the Board of
Make
Education.
a motion to waive policy 1120, school district records.
Second.
All in favor? Any discussion on this?
We discussed this last time. This is just the process in which we brought it and we're bringing the basically the following process up to date currently.
Okay.
Access to public information. And then make a motion to approve it.
Yeah, I was gonna do that. Wait, which one? Which next?
We're on 1120. That's the next, that's next here.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the policy 1120, school district records. Second, all in favor? Okay.
What do we do with this 1120E and R?
Yeah.
We don't just include them with that.
No, we need to vote that. This is school district record exhibit application for public access to record 1120/E.1 application for public access to record. To make a request of public.
Motion to waive. Sure, let's-
To make a motion to waive the second reading of policy 1120-E.1, school district records exhibit, application for public access to records.
Second.
All in favor? Second motion.
Motion to approve
Policy 1.
policy 1120-E.1, school district records exhibit application for public access to records.
Second,
All in favor?
all.
Aye. Don't.
I said,
Can't vote for everyone.
Second reading, policy 1120R, school district records regulation. The following comprises.
Motion to waive the reading for policy 1120-0-R, school district records regulation.
second,
All in favor? I think you got to ask for that.
no, it's cool. Motion, okay,
Motion to approve second reading policy 1120-R, district records regulations.
all. Did it.
Alexis and Deanna, thanks.
Before we break, President Bernard, I'd like to take a point of privilege to just remind everybody that tomorrow schools are closed as we observe the Juneteenth holiday. So we will pause to have that observance.
Oh, excellent. Wonderful. Any committee reports? Board con. New business. Oh my God. Okay.
No, there was one thing, but
Well, right, say it.
so earlier when we were talking about the program for next changes for next year, we did not mention that we are doing a K-12 math review. Did we bring that up?
Mike brought it up shortly after,
Marcia.
Ms. Fairley.
Oh, yes, all scattered. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that it was. Because I
But
would,
as a K-12 review.
yeah, but I'm mentioning it because it's part of a committee report. We met about, in curriculum, it was discussed that it would be K-12.
Yes, K-12. We're asking for teacher input right now. I already have some names back to me. I know the high school, I think, was waiting to get their schedule released, so they knew who was teaching which course, because we asked for 2 teachers from Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry.
And then and then one other question to clarify, would that group be the ones to discuss? Would that group be the ones to discuss whether or not algebra is appropriate for 8th grade only?
No,
Thing?
I don't know about that.
Okay, I'm just asking a question. Okay. All right, that's it. That's from the committee.
That definitely is something that we could start a discussion at site-based teams.
Okay.
So site-based teams are building level?
Site-based teams are building level and they're advisory in nature. It's a way for stakeholders to bring as a way for principals to bring ideas to stakeholders to bounce ideas off of. And as a way for stakeholders to bring considerations to building level principles. It's advisory because there may be some topics that are brought up that we as a school district just cannot do, so we don't want to make the false expectation that whatever site-based decides is locked in sand.
It's a good idea to bring the middle school and high school together for that one. since it's sort of a conversation that's gonna be bridging a gap between one and the other.
Consider that. If not, we could also bring the administration together to report out on what the site-based teams decide.
Right, you should look at how kids are. Cause right, it's gonna.
We begin with the end in mind.
Correct, cause you. Sorry. Right, cause it may affect years prior and how they prepare, right, in order to take it. And then also how have our students currently been doing and what are the teachers that are currently seeing? What are the strengths or weaknesses of our current model?
That's agreed, that's a basic tenet of curriculum, effective curriculum design. Where you look at what you want your students to know and be able to do as a 12th grader leading the Howard Halls of Henry Hudson High School, similar for a K through 12 STEAM program. We know that the accumulating course in Henry Hudson High School is a Python class. You hopefully are not exposing students to Python in 4th grade, so that when they get to that upper level class, they've already seen it, unless it's a spiral curriculum in the future. But you also want to make sure that you're providing opportunities to gain the skills and content so that they can enter that class, should they do so, and in maths, you would want to do the same thing.
Thanks.
Alright. Everyone good? Anything else? Okay, can I have a motion to close the meeting?
Go ahead.
Motion. Second? Second, all in favor?